Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite team in the Bay Area. And on today's episode, we're going to start diving into some of these prospects. And we have the one and only Mikael Holm to come on and talk about Filip Bystedt and Matisse Havelid and kind of what the Sharks are getting from these players and kind of the expectations for them. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at Fear the Fin and San Jose Hockey Now. And I want to thank you, of course, for making us your first listen. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can find us on YouTube as well. And today we have Mikael Holm, friend of the show, who's been on, to talk about William Eklund, and thought no better person to get to know the two newest Swedes added with the Sharks 2022 draft class. So we're going to talk about Bystedt and Matisse Havelid, and what's their translatable skills, what might hold them back, and then kind of their timeline, of course, for making the NHL and making an impact on the Sharks. So without further ado, enjoy my conversation with Mikael Holm. And we are joined by Mikael Holm, the one Swedish friend we have multiple Swedish friends, but BFF Swedish friend, potentially, ? Mikael, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's great to be back on the show with one less person, but yeah,
we go on without Kyle. He's living his best life in Australia right now, so I can confirm that right now. But
I'm happy for him.
Yes, very happy for him. So Mikael, we have you on. We want to talk about two of the Sharks' first three picks in Filip Bystedt and Matisse Havelid. So let's start out with the Sharks' first round pick that they drafted. They drafted Filip Bystedt with the 27th pick overall. First question, because a lot of Sharks fans, we were so focused on number 11, we didn't have a second round pick, so we were just really focused on 11, and he wasn't really a name that was kind of on, kind of floating around for Sharks potentially. But let's start with the first question. Did the Sharks reach a little bit for him at 27, you think, or did they get a quality player there?
Yeah, you could argue maybe a little bit of a reach. He was in that range for me, the late first until mid-second or something like that. I had him. Mm-hmm. And I think around that area, it's a decent pickup. Like he could become a second line center if he really pans out. So if you get a second line center at 27, you're gonna be happy. It's more about, I think it's less about the pick off him and more about what you passed on to take him maybe. But I like the pick, so it isn't too bad.
So what are the Sharks getting out of Bystedt? Is he what type of player is he? Kind of give his elevator pitch, I guess.
Well, he's a big center. He's 6'4", 200 something pounds. I don't know. He's a low 200 pounds guy, I think. 205, yeah.
205.
So, and he's a fast skater. I've seen a lot of people talking about how he's not a good skater. I disagree wholeheartedly because he can generate insane speed very quickly, and he's a very good shooter. He's a setup guy too, so he can do both. He scored the most points on his J20 team in Linköping. He's going to play in the SHL next year for Linköping, most likely. So yeah, he's someone compared him to Jeff Carter early past season. I can see some similarities to those two guys. So yeah, that's a bit what you get with him.
Do you think he's going to translate to a center when he gets to the NHL, or you think he's just set as a center, or is there a potential he might move to wing?
I think he can play both. I think he's better as a center, driving a play through the center of the ice and passing the puck and stuff like that. I think it's less. You get less value out of him on the wing, especially if you can put a more skilled winger with him as well. in the future, that you're going to have him who can take care of the middle a lot and just cover a lot of ice and driving the puck up the ice.
So you talked about his kind of, you think he's a good skater, he's a good, a good shooter, kind of pretty well-rounded game. How is he in his own defensive zone?
He's all right. I think I haven't it's a lot with these young players where you watch them, you're like, yeah, it is what it is, but I see tendencies from him that are good, and I like them. I think he could become a solid defensive guy. That's why I think he's a middle six, probably center for the future. And if he becomes a good third line center, I'll be happy with him at 27. That's about what you can expect from that range. But yeah, I really enjoy him. So yeah.
What is the one skill that you think is going to translate the best going to the NHL for him?
I mean, we always talk about like these, when we talk ahead of the draft, and we talk about these young, exciting players, and then we talk about the issues, and it's always the size. It's always the size. And he has the size already.
You can't teach size.
Yeah, you can see size, but like he has a man's body, so to say, already. But I think the combination of the size and the speed is going to translate really well. I think also his passing is really good. It's very quick, and he's very it's just very quick. He doesn't need a lot of time, and I think he can do it under pressure a lot. So I think the translation to the smaller ice will work well for him.
And then what's the one thing that you think holds him back from potentially making the NHL? Or maybe not making the NHL, but not like kind of hitting his ceiling?
I think his off puck play is a lot of times not the best. He doesn't hit the routes correctly, and he doesn't open up space that much for his teammates. He wants the puck on his stick, but it's also he is also the leading player for his J20 team. So it's kind of understandable that he wants the puck a lot, and when he doesn't have it, he's a little bit disinterested. But I think just developing the off puck play and hitting routes, finding open space without the puck, and so he can utilize his shot as well. I think that would be what he needs to move forward with.
And that seems like a pretty coachable skill, right?
Yeah, it is. But you have to have a player that is committed to it as well. It's a hard thing to learn the off puck play. It's instinct, and instincts you don't learn immediately. It takes a while for him to develop. So I think give him some time and see where he is in a few years.
All right, guys, before we continue and get into Havelid and kind of his expectations and kind of get to know Havelid a little bit better, got to take a quick break, talk to you guys about our friends over at BetOnline. You guys know BetOnline is the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, news, including Major League Baseball. Of course, they've got you covered for golf. They've got you covered with MMA, boxing, NFL starting next month. So BetOnline, your continuous source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores, and more. So head to their website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So speaking of time, like, what do you think is his timeline? So he's going back to the SHL this year. What's a reasonable timeline for him before he's kind of makes the jump to North America?
I would say give him at least 2 years in the SHL and let him see where he is after that, and then probably a year in the AHL. I think he's going to take some time. That's what happens with those late picks. You're gonna expect 2-3 years for those to develop and become proper players in the NHL. So I think a 2-3 year timeline is probably what you're looking for.
So he's going to play in the SHL this year. What is kind of a reasonable expectational season for him? I know he played 15 games in the SHL last year. He should get a full season at SHL this year. Kind of what's expectations for him on his team?
I would say bottom 6 minutes probably. They are a team that are investing a lot of money to become better and be a good team. While they also have a lot of talented players, as we're going to talk about Havelid next. But I think he's going to have a bottom six role, probably, most likely, unless they move him to the wing and try to play him higher up. But I think a third or fourth line is probably where you're looking at for him next year.
I mean, can you tell us a little bit about Is it Linköping? Is that how you say it, or
it's Linköping in Swedish, but
Linköping.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what type of? I mean, we've heard a lot about of course, from Djurgårdens from you as a lifelong Djurgårdens fan, and you're very sad still. But can you tell us a little about Linköping?
Yeah, they're like a middling team. They've always invested a lot of money to try to become good. They reached the finals once, I think. They reached the top league in the early 2000s, I think. But they've always invested money to become the champions, but they've only reached the finals once. And since then, they've been a little bit up and down, maybe reached the playoffs most of the time, but they aren't really a contender of sorts. And they're like I don't know, the Minnesota Wild of this SHL.
Oh no! Oh no! Well, I mean, at least though, like playing playoff hockey is good. I would, at this point with the Sharks, I would take a first round exit, just because I know it's only been 3 years, but I would definitely just take a first round exit. Over,
the
recent couple years. So
recently they haven't been in the playoffs really either. I think they've reached. I think they've been struggling in the bottom and haven't really reached the playoffs the last couple of years. Ending up at either one of the play-in spots or or just below that, where you don't get to play anymore this in the season. So yeah, they've been struggling lately.
But they're not like relegation bad. Or is that too soon to ask?
I don't think they're going to get relegated, but they're usually in the last few years they've been in that battle, so to speak, but they've been clear with a couple of games left usually.
Gotcha. All right, so let's talk about, of course, then the Sharks went on to select teammate, Mattias Havelid. So they got him with the 45th pick that they got from the Arizona Coyotes. And 5'10", 172-pound defenseman who, like, reading the scouting reports, there might be something there with him, right?
Yeah, definitely. He is a very intriguing player. He's definitely mainly an offensive player. And he is very skilled, great scorer from the defensive end. Scored a lot of goals in the under 18s, I think. He scored like 3 or 4 or something like that. And he had in the J20 semifinal game, so it's just one game in the J20 semifinal, and he scored a hat trick in that one to bring Linköping to the finals. So yeah, he's a very good scorer, mostly on the power play, but he has a great one-timer. He gets his shot through the traffic from the blue line as well with a wrister and stuff like that. So yeah, he's a very offensive threat, a big offensive threat, but with the not too bad defensive play, but it's still a lot of work to need to be done there.
So kind of again, so what's the one skill that's going to make him an NHL player?
His skating. His skating is really, really good, especially when you're at 5'10", like he is. I think he is, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you need skating, especially as a defenseman reaching the NHL. So I think that's his one standout skill.
And then what's the thing that's going to hold him back? The size?
No, I think size, but also decision making. He really likes to, like in the offensive zone, he is very focused. I said he has a good shot, but he also takes a ton of bad shots, like hilarious amount of just shooting it from weird distances and just
the Brent Burns approach then, right? Just
sort of
fire as many as you can. Yes.
Yeah, just lacking a few inches there. But yeah, exactly. He just takes a lot of poor shots, poor decision making, and and of course his defense. He needs to work on his defensive abilities. But I think that also comes just naturally with age. You just develop better defense naturally playing against men when you move from junior to men and stuff like that. But you also get stronger, and he's going to get stronger, and hopefully maybe he gets a little bit bigger. So that's going to help a lot as well defensively.
Yeah, I mean, he got, as a 18-year-old, just turned 18, he played 23 games in the SHL last year, which is, you like to see that, especially for the defenseman, where, it typically takes him a little bit longer. And then, so kind of the same thing. So what's going to be his role next year in the SHL?
Probably bottom pairing, I think. Maybe extra guy, I think. I think they have 7 defensemen on the team now. Maybe they're bringing in an 8th one. But yeah, I think he's going to be a bottom pair guy if they want to play him. He could also be a target for a loan out to the Allsvenskan, maybe.
So if he gets, so can you explain? So if he gets loaned out, that's kind of like kind of explain that for us, maybe a little bit. Yeah,
you just get moved to you get signed to another team, so you're on 2 teams basically, and you can jump back and forth between them if needed. So you can sign that. This is for young players only in Sweden, I think. So you can sign for another team which is in a different league in HockeyAllsvenskan, the league below, since there's a relegation and promotion in Sweden, in Swedish hockey.
Yep.
And he can just sign for another team, so he can go play with them, get more playing time against men, and develop properly there, and then come back to Linköping during the season if they need him because of injuries or something, or if he does really well and they want to bring him up and play in the SHL.
All right, guys, before we finish up with Mikael and kind of talk about 5 years from now, where the Sharks will how they'll feel about these picks, let's go ahead and take a quick break, talk to you guys about our friends over at rockauto.com. You guys know Rock Auto is the best place to get parts for your car. There's nothing worse than going to a local parts store, telling them what type of car you have. They have a million questions to ask, and then they only have one part behind the counter because it's just a small store. So with rockauto.com, you can save time and money when using their website. You can spend 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership. They're a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. They have reliable low prices for every customer. So head to their website today at rockauto.com. See all the parts available for your car or truck, right locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box. That way they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliable low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
So that's probably that could be a scenario for him as well, that I could see.
Do they have kind of exclusive teams, almost like a farm? Who would they work, or is it just any of the HockeyAllsvenskan teams that he could sign with?
Yeah, it's any of them, but usually geographically there's some teams that are closer than others. So Linköping has a team that is close to them that is called Vita Hästen, which is in Norrköping. So it's a few, 45 minutes away or something, an hour away. So they tend to loan out to them because it's easy, of course. Yeah, it's close, but it isn't you can loan out to Stockholm. It's 2 hours away. You can loan out to Linköping is pretty close to a lot of places, so you can loan the players out a little bit all over the place.
All right, and then what's his kind of time? So what's his? Yeah, I guess his kind of timeline until he makes the jump to North America.
I would say similar to Bystedt, 2-3 years, maybe more.
He's gonna just go in Bystedt's luggage and just smuggle him over.
Exactly. Yeah, he's so tiny. He doesn't need it. But
so
yeah,
probably 2 to 3 years in the probably 2 years in SHL, plays a year or 2 in the AHL, and then we'll see him on the Sharks after that.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think it's probably good for him to take his time. But I wouldn't be opposed to him going. I don't think anyone has drafted him in the CHL, or maybe they have. I don't remember last year. Maybe it's possible, but if they have, maybe a CHL route is also possible for him. Could also be good. Moving to get smaller places, being on smaller surface, and just defensemen in general. I think it's better for them to move to juniors sometimes, just to
be those big minute munchers and kind of be the guy for a little bit. Yeah,
and then every team you face have a 6'7" monster is gonna try to murder you every time they're on the ice, and you're gonna get used to that. So like, it's I think it's a good move sometimes, especially for the smaller players, to just get used to the North American hockey.
All right, and then so we talked about both these guys. Like, if they both reach their potential, like, well, where, like 5 years from now, where we're gonna kind of look back at these picks, what do you think we'll be saying about them?
I think you're going to be happy with them. Like, it's not going to be. I mean, Havelid has a small potential of being like, how the hell did he drop there? Kind of pick, because he has the offensive ability, and he could be a guy that scores like, I don't know, 50 points from the defensive end or something. Like, he could be that type of player. A lot of things have to work out, of course. So, but yeah, I think Havelid is in the future is probably a second pairing defenseman, offensive guy. You put a solid defenseman next to him, and you're going to have a nice little pairing there. And I think Bystedt is a middle six guy, depending on what kind of depth you have down the middle of the ice. And
there is not much.
Well, we'll see in 5 years, because
yeah.
You're not going to be that great for those 5 years, probably.
Yeah,
well, I assume, at least. So, yeah, I think if you expect Bystedt to become a good third liner and Havelid to be an offensive contributor on a middle or a bottom pairing in the NHL, you're going to be happy. Havelid can definitely run a power play, and Bystedt can play in all situations. So I think you just hope to get contributors that are pretty good, then you're happy with the picks.
Awesome. Mikael, you've said it all. Where can the people find you, and what do you have working on next?
Well, they can find me on Twitter, called Mikael Holm, and they can also find my work on Substack, which is mikaelholm.substack.com. I don't have much working on next. We'll see what happens with the next year and the draft class there, if I'm going to scout them or whatever is going to happen. But I'll be around definitely on Twitter.
Awesome. Mikael, thank you so much. And we'll talk to you soon, buddy. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Mikael Holm. Of course, we're going to keep tabs on all things Swede as we Sharks continue to add more and more Swedes to the pipeline, which I, for one, am all for. So, make sure you guys could give Mikael a follow. He's a great follow, especially with all things Sweden. He more than happy to translate stuff for you. Just don't bombard him with stuff, but he, very nice and very helpful to translate stuff for you as well. But so yeah, make sure you guys also follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Of course, you can listen wherever you get podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Odyssey. You can find us on YouTube. Make sure you guys please subscribe. And then we're, close to 1,200 subscribers on YouTube. So really appreciate it. And then tomorrow, the first of the 2022 draft class prospects. So make sure you guys are subscribed for that to get to know some of these prospects. As we're going to the hope is to try to get them all. So we'll see. But so yeah, make sure you guys subscribe. Going to have the first prospect on tomorrow. And yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at myfryhole, and we'll be back tomorrow. Bye, friends.